As I stood there watching in disbelief, I could feel the anger bubbling up inside me. I had put so much into this bridge, countless hours of planning, designing, and building. Every nail, every board, every piece of wood was chosen with care, with the dream of creating something unique. And yet, there they were, ripping it apart as if it meant nothing. The HOA members didn't even bother to talk to me first. There were no meetings, no polite letters asking for modifications or adjustments. They just sent in a crew, without so much as a courtesy call. It wasn't the first time the HOA had acted like this, overbearing, oppressive, and completely out of touch with the real needs of the community. But this was different. This was personal. The bridge wasn't just a structure. It was a labor of love, a dream realized after years of working hard, earning every penny I needed to make it happen. It was supposed to be a place for my family to gather, for us to escape from the hustle and bustle of the world, and for me to spend peaceful moments on that island in the middle of the lake. To me, it wasn't just a physical bridge. It was the embodiment of all the hard work I had put in over the years. And here they were, destroying it without any consideration for what it meant to me. The audacity of it all was overwhelming. What right did they have to tear down my creation? What right did they have to decide what was and wasn't acceptable on my property? Who gave them the authority to dictate how I could use the land I had bought with my own money? I marched over to one of the workers and demanded an explanation. But instead of the respect I expected, the man barely acknowledged me. "It's company policy," he said, as if that explained everything. But it didn't. It didn't explain the hours I had spent planning this bridge or the money I had invested in making it a reality. It didn't explain why they thought they could just take matters into their own hands and destroy my property. I called the HOA office immediately, hoping to get a clear answer. When I finally got a hold of one of their representatives, I was met with the same dismissive attitude. "Your project was outside of the approved guidelines," she said in a tone that was annoyingly calm. "It's against the rules, and we've decided to take action." But when I pressed for more specifics, things got even murkier. The rules they were referring to were vague, poorly defined, and clearly subject to interpretation. The more I pushed for details, the more I realized that this was about control, not aesthetics. It wasn't about a bridge. It was about power. The HOA wanted to make an example out of me. They wanted to show everyone who was in charge. That's when something inside me snapped. I couldn't just let this go. I couldn't just stand by while these people destroyed something so important to me. And I wasn't about to back down. The HOA may have had its rules, but I had the resources, the knowledge, and the determination to fight back. I spent the next few days researching everything I could about the HOA and their history of overreach. I dug into their past decisions, looking for any weaknesses, any inconsistencies, anything I could use to my advantage. What I found didn't surprise me. They had a history of making arbitrary decisions, of bulldozing homeowners' dreams without even considering the consequences. They had become a power-hungry, overbearing force in the neighborhood, and I wasn't about to let them get away with it. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. The bridge may have been gone, but I wasn't going to let them win. They had no idea who they were messing with. I had the knowledge, the patience, and the resilience to fight back. And fight back I would. But how? What could I do to make them understand the gravity of their actions? I wasn't just going to take legal action. That would take too long and might not even work. I needed something bigger, something that would make them feel the weight of their arrogance. And then it hit me, the lake. The HOA loved their million-dollar homes, and they adored their lakefront views. The community's reputation was built on the pristine beauty of the lake, and the homeowners association used the lake as a major selling point. Without the lake, their perfect little mansions would be worthless. I wasn't going to destroy their homes, but I could take away their peace. I could take away their views. I could drain their lake. And that's exactly what I did. I didn't just react impulsively. I calculated every move, planned everything down to the smallest detail. I hired the right people, the right contractors, and I made sure I had the legal backing I needed. I set the plan in motion, and over the course of several weeks, I slowly drained the lake. The water receded little by little, until those grand, multimillion-dollar homes were sitting beside a dry, barren shoreline. It wasn't about destroying their property. It was about sending a message. And soon, The message was clear. Mess with me, and you'll regret it. Their pristine lakefront views were gone. Their peaceful retreats became nothing more than empty, expensive houses. They had no water access, no lake to boast about, no serene environment. All their luxury, all their power was gone in the blink of an eye. The HOA didn't just destroy my bridge. They destroyed the peace I had spent years working for. But in the end, it was them who would suffer the consequences. They thought they could push me around, but they had no idea who they were dealing with. As the days passed, my frustration grew. Every time I looked out over the lake, my anger boiled over again. The beauty of the place, the serenity, the tranquility I had worked so hard to create for myself and my family, was now tainted by the actions of a group of people who didn't seem to care about anyone but themselves. The HOA was an entity that was supposed to represent the interests of the community, but all they were doing was enforcing their power and ruining my life in the process. It wasn't just the destruction of my bridge that bothered me. It was the arrogance, the sense of entitlement that radiated from these people. They lived in $5 million mansions by the lake, enjoying luxury and opulence, while they made life difficult for those of us who didn't play by their rules. I couldn't help but feel that they thought their money made them untouchable, that their privileged positions gave them the right to control everything around them, even my property. I was no stranger to hard work or sacrifice. I had built my life from the ground up. But these people, with their inflated sense of superiority, seemed to think they could walk all over me just because they had deep pockets and high status. What right did they have to come into my life, tear down something I'd worked so hard for, and then just walk away as if nothing happened? They had no idea what kind of person they were messing with. I began to strategize. The more I thought about it, the clearer the picture became. The HOA and the homeowners were all so proud of their multimillion-dollar properties, and the centerpiece of their wealth was the pristine lake in front of them. It wasn't just the view that made their homes so valuable, it was the lake. It provided them with a sense of exclusivity, a sense of grandeur. They were living the life most people only dreamed of, and they were doing it with the lake as their private playground. But what if that lake, that perfect symbol of their wealth and status, was suddenly no longer perfect? What if it lost its charm, its beauty, its utility? What if, instead of enjoying their waterfront views, they found themselves staring at a barren, dry expanse? Suddenly, their $5 million mansions wouldn't be worth a fraction of what they were now. Their boats would sit stranded on land, their pristine lawns leading nowhere. That lake was the key to their happiness, their luxury, their pride, and I had a plan to take it from them. I didn't need to destroy their homes, or even physically damage their properties. No, that would have been too obvious, too harsh. What I needed was to make the lake lose its appeal. I knew that if I could manipulate the water levels just enough, if I could make the lake disappear little by little, it would cause a ripple effect. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I could turn the tide in my favor, literally. I didn't just want to get revenge on the HOA and those arrogant homeowners. I wanted to show them the consequences of their actions. They had taken away something I loved, something I had invested so much in, and now it was time for them to experience what it felt like to lose something precious. The lake was everything to them, and I had the power to take it from them. I knew that with the right tools and knowledge, I could drain that lake, bit by bit, until the very thing that made their properties so valuable was no longer a selling point. I had the connections and the resources to make it happen, but it wasn't just about the technical know-how. It was about sending a message. It was about proving to them that they couldn't just push people around without consequences. They couldn't just destroy a piece of someone's life and expect to walk away unscathed. I called in a contractor who had experience working with water systems, someone I knew could help me make my plan a reality. We discussed how to reroute the flow of the water, how to manipulate the lake's levels in a way that would be slow enough to go unnoticed at first, but significant enough to create an impact. We came up with a strategy that involved controlling the flow of water, diverting it away from certain parts of the lake, and allowing the levels to drop over time. The goal wasn't to flood their homes or to cause any damage. It was to make their view of the lake disappear. It was to take the beauty, the luxury, the tranquility that they held so dear and turn it into a barren wasteland. I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but I also knew that the HOA and the homeowners had pushed me too far. They had taken something that was mine and destroyed it, and now it was my turn to take back control. As the plan began to unfold, I could already feel the sense of satisfaction building within me. Every step I took brought me closer to the outcome I desired. I wasn't just going to let them get away with it. I was going to make them feel the consequences of their actions, and I was going to do it in a way they'd never forget. This was more than just about a bridge. This was about showing them that no one, no matter how rich or powerful they thought they were, could destroy what I had worked for without paying the price. The lake was theirs no more. It was time for them to realize that the very thing they held most precious was slipping away, just as they had done to me, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. The moment I made the decision to act, I knew that I wasn't just doing it for revenge. This was about teaching them a lesson they'd never forget. I wasn't going to destroy their homes, their mansions, or their lavish lifestyles, but I was going to take away the one thing they could never replace, the lake that defined their worth, the lake that was their source of pride, their status symbol, and their connection to luxury.